lot of news stories. It's amazing when stories break, and it's quick, but he had plenty of attention, plenty of help. But let that be a reminder whenever possible that I can give you a tip or have you think of something. I know in the drier climates where, the humidity's lower, it doesn't feel like you need something, but that's where you dry out even more. I know people there in Arizona or Northern California, real quickly, you got to drink. Make sure you're hydrated. Even if you don't feel like it, the best thing to drink is water. And a good way to drink water is put a tablet in there or something that makes it taste better. You might like the cherry flavor. That's my favorite. Strawberry, grape, or whatever flavor, but you just drop it in there, and there's no calories, and it tastes wonderful. So pick yourself up some of that. More water, less caffeine, and you'll actually feel better for it. Some people the opposite. They can't survive without coffee. They are more coffee, but I'm telling you, in the hot weather, you got to have that. And it's a reminder tomorrow here in the Tampa Bay area. That's where I do the broadcast each and every day, Monday through Friday. It's 96 and it feels like it's going to be over 100 with the humidity, but it's a record high temperature for this time of year. And 96, man, in Tampa, that's warm. And then humidity, if you get like 65 or 75%, feel like could be 104. That's hot, especially if you work in a garage or something like that. You don't have any AC. My goodness gracious, hot balls of fire. You got to cool yourself down somehow. You may have to spray yourself off with a sprinkler system where you can run under the sprinkler or something like that. In a lot of cities, they do that. They'll actually, the firemen, they have to, I guess, something with pressurization with the fire hydrants. It's fire hydrants. That's it. And they open it up, and then kids and adults can run through it and all that. It's kind of a nice thing. Brings back great memories as a kid because that's what, I'd love to do. And one of the summer things I'm going to do here in the Bay Area personally is head on over to Adventure Island with my 14-year-old daughter. She loves going down the slides, and they're fast and they're wet and they're wild and crazy and all that stuff. Some of them are just a little downright scary, but the lines are a little crazy, but it's well worth it. When you hear the screams and the laughter and just the fun. I just worry about going down too fast. And I saw one guy this happened to on film where he was flopping around on one of these slides that was, not inside, but exposed on the outside. And he flopped a little bit too much going down and actually flew off the slide and busted a bunch of bones. So, and I've flopped around a couple times going down one of those slides. I mean, you fly down that. But I like the ones that are enclosed. I feel a little bit safer on that. But if you're ever in the Tampa Bay area, lots of entertainment. We got Busch Gardens here. And then, of course, we got the Big Mouse up the I-4. You don't know what the Big Mouse is? Come on. You know what the Big Mouse is. Of course, it's Disney World. And everybody goes to Disney, right? North Korea, we're kind of watching them and just wondering, if and when, and experts now basically say that North Korea could have a nuke on one of those missiles they just launched, 4 or 5 days ago, that went over 400 miles close to Russia, landed very close to the Russian border, could be headed to Seattle. And Seattle's taken this threat serious because that could be an eventual target. There's so much there. I mean, Microsoft is there. We got Boeing. It's there. We have large naval reserves there. I mean, it's a clear threat, and folks in Seattle are taking this threat very, very serious. And as a matter of fact, they're wanting to plan for a possible nuclear attack. I'm not even kidding. The Pentagon says the ballistic missile flew 1,000 miles higher than NASA's International Space Station. It was then able to re-enter Earth's atmosphere and splash down just 60 miles from Russia. It was 60 miles. And then one official told Fox it was a big step forward in North Korea's nuclear missile program. So emergency plans have already been underway in Hawaii. We've talked about it on the show. The closest state to North Korea have taken notice and are evaluating the existing nuclear attack response plans. And meanwhile, another possible target on the West Coast is barred from taking any steps to plan for a nuclear attack. That's Washington State allows evacuation plans for every disaster scenario except a bomb, a nuclear bomb. So former State Representative Dick Nelson remembers the prevailing thinking in the legislature at the time concerning response plans in the event of a nuclear war. And we're talking back in, the law passed in 1984, 7 years before the end of the Cold War. And it was the opposite approach taken by President Ronald Reagan, whose peace through strength doctrine helped lead to the collapse of the Soviet Union. So a current Washington State senator says that the current law is irresponsible and native. I think it's ridiculous and silly, says State Representative Mark Musa, and sort of the head in the sand mentality. It has probably, he says it has probability of happening. Prepare for it. He said the probability is, in our lifetime, very, very likely, unless something is done with this rogue regime in North Korea with Kim Jong-un. And if the unthinkable, like I say, that the naval base is there and reportedly has 1,300 nuclear warheads there, almost 1/4 of the U.S.'s arsenal, making it the largest stockpile of nukes in the world, folks. Largest stockpile in the world. And Seattle, folks, yes, is the closest major U.S. city to Pyongyang, and is an important factor when calculating accuracy. But Washington State's top emergency planner says that the current law bearing any nuclear strike planning is not a big deal. We do not have a specific plan for a nuclear attack, said Robert Ezel, director of the Washington Military Department of Emergency Management, nor do we have a specific plan for a volcano, a number of types of hazards that you can name. This is the age we live in. Technology has advanced, and if they can get up to outer space and above the International Space Station, that's pretty high, and they land, 60 miles to Russia? I mean, just a little bit further. They seem like they have this a little bit further, and a little bit further. And believe me, I wouldn't put anything past Kim Jong-un. The guy is an idiot, a psychopath. I mean, it's pretty ballsy, and to get that close to Russia. We all need to, as a world governing party, need to really crack down sooner rather than later. But I think he's going to do something really stupid over the summer. Really dumb. And he doesn't know who he's messing with, but he will have the might of the U.S. so quick, so fast, they will not know what hit him. But my feeling is we have to hit them before they hit anybody, including our allies. And the poor folks that protect the border there, the DMZ in South Korea. We got 250,000 troops there. And then not to mention the population of South Korea. It's a big mess. Talking about a big mess, the U.S. Coast Guard said Jennifer Bloom, have you heard this story? 40-year-old of New York, and then Nathan Ulrich of 52. He was 52 years old of New Hampshire. And Bloom and Sons were on board this airplane that disappeared over the Bermuda Triangle. Bloomin is the chief executive officer of the Skylight Group that creates events, space, and historic locations in New York for corporate clients that includes businesses like Google, Ralph Lauren, and Nike, to name a few, according to the New York Times. And Ulrich, the co-founder of the adult Scooter company, Scooter, is a pilot and an engineer. And this is according to WNYW in New York. And the New York Post described Ulrich's and Blumen's boyfriend. So they were flying together. It's just sad news. The Coast Guard found this debris field extending about 15 miles east of the Bahamas at about 3 p.m. yesterday, reported the New York Daily News. The airplane lost contact with the control tower about 37 miles. And according to the Coast Guard, there's weird things that happen in the Bermuda Triangle. A lot of planes, a lot of ships have disappeared through that. It's really weird. Ulrich was told officials that the airplane was at about 24,000 feet and traveling at 300 knots in its last transmission, according to the Daily News. 24,000 feet, traveling 300 knots, and that was it. And the Coast Guard could not locate the airplane after a search started, but then returned to the search area between Florida and the Bahamas yesterday. The Daily News wrote U.S. Customs and Border Protection and the Royal Bahamas Defense Force assisted in the search, and the search also included the so-called Bermuda Triangle, where legend has it that many planes and ships have mysteriously gone missing. Ulrich's father, Gail Ulrich, told the New York Post that speaking about his missing son was a little hard to talk about. Well, it's pretty obvious. Right now, we're still dealing with the uncertainty. Gail Ulrich said, according to the Post, we have nothing to offer other than we're still searching for their son. And we pray that they might have some hope. They find something, or bare minimal, if they don't find him alive, at least a little closure. There's nothing worse with just not knowing. But that is an odd place, and there's a lot of planes that try to really avoid, like the plague, that area, just because of the mystery behind it. I mean, if you're into the unsolved mysteries with the Bermuda Triangle, I mean, they've seen, unidentified flying objects there. There's this odd energy that emits there, and some people have called it kind of like a time warp where planes fly into it or ships go into it and they go somewhere else, like a parallel universe. Who knows? It is interesting. I'm into those shows. I certainly would be like most of these pilots that I hear that will try to go way around this area just to avoid that happening. Hey, were you a big fan of Tim Allen? You like Tim Allen? A lot of people were stunned that ABC just canceled his show after 6 seasons. It's pretty sad. And, he's a conservative. And according to ABC, it was a scheduling decision. And the network was immediately hit with criticism, as some of you might know already. But people feel that he was axed due to his conservative values, and a petition on change.org to have it reinstated in the lineup has racked up more than 200,000 signatures in less than a week. And you can go there now, and I would suggest doing it, change.org. Change.org. They already got 200,000 signatures. They could use yours. But Allen finally took to Twitter to respond to all this news. And basically he said, stunned and blindsided by the network I called home for the last 6 years. See, this is just like ABC. This is just like them to make that decision because of how liberal left-leaning they are. And the shows, the many shows, most of the shows that are on ABC are so diametrically opposed to conservative values. It's just oozing out like pus out of a wound. They make it blatantly clear that they do not like those values. And they make fun of Christians, and they make fun of conservatives in this country. So if that's not offensive to you, then just let that go. But if it does offend you, like it does me and most of our listeners here at For the People, change.org and sign the petition to have Last Man Standing back on.